In a video that is almost certain to be demonetized, Vice asks, should you shag someone with bad politics? A fun Q&A to help you decide what's more important, your deeply held political convictions or your disgusting sexual appetite. While I can appreciate this feller Albert Moore is humorous and this is probably a bit tongue-in-cheek, it is still this leftist perspective on dating. And I think this article comes at a very interesting time. We have seen a series of blog posts and articles that made a really interesting point. First, we saw a story that said it was the dangerous rise of men who won't date woke women. This female writer said that, this famous actor talked about how wokeness is bad and he won't date woke women and how it's dangerous and, whatever. We then saw a researcher write an article saying the reason they're worried is that when it comes to dating, if men won't date them, many of their diehard followers will have no choice but to change their political ideology to become more attractive to a potential mate. Humans are driven by these desires, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. And many of the people who claim to be woke and push these things, in fact, are just doing it because of societal pressures and norms. And when they encounter an attractive person with bad politics, guess what they choose to do? Go for the dangerous bad person anyway. This writer actually admits the same thing. What I think we're seeing with these stories telling you, don't do it, is they're actually starting to get worried that when people go on Tinder, on Tinder, I was going to say Twitter and Tinder, when they see someone attractive, they swipe for it. And when that person who is attractive says, oh, by the way, I believe these things, they say, oh, well, that's not so bad. Case in point, Emma Solkowitz, also known as Mattress Girl. There's a big story about how she is now, people are calling her red-pilled. She was the wokest of the woke, wasn't she? But she says she met someone on Tinder who opened her mind to other ideas and she decided to engage with him. And now she hangs out with conservatives and libertarians. Why? When it came to dating, she had no luck. Why is it that so many of these early 30-year-old women who are working struggle to find men who are attractive or who make as much as them, as all these articles have posted? It's because of the, quote, dangerous rise of men who won't date woke women. They're taking notice, they're getting worried, and they're trying to enforce the cult. I'm sorry. If people don't want to hook up with you because of the weird things you think, it's because you're weird, right? Maybe you should try and be like everyone else, not in the sense that you should be, a conformist, but just not a fringe extremist. You can be a unique lefty, you can be a socialist, so long as you're not nuts. Although many of them, I think, are nuts, including the far right, right? Let's read the story. Albert writes, 2 weeks ago, I went on a date with a man, and after we'd got the small talk out of the way, declared himself an enthusiastic supporter of a late 20th century dictator, and not even one of the cooler ones like Fidel Castro or Scar from The Lion King. I was disturbed by this information, but instead of taking him to task, pulling out Wikipedia and sassily reading out a list of atrocities, I calmly finished my drink, invited him back to my flat, where we made that foul grunting two-backed beast. Sure. The point is, even this guy who is on a date with another guy, praising Fidel Castro, clearly he's an extremist, they're both at the other end of the spectrum and they both agreed to go bang. So clearly, look, the shirt says never kiss a Tory. They're seriously trying to tell people, don't do it, don't do it. Why? Because they want to. And then what happens? Their politics change. This is why they say don't talk to them. This is why they say you can't engage them. They're liars. This is why they chant over and over again instead of having debates or discussions. They don't want anyone to realize that the people who are roped into this are in a cult. It's a cult stew, right? He says, when I told a friend of mine what had happened, she accused me of only caring about politics when it affected me directly. Had my date instead said something nice about Michael Gove, she suggested, I'd have launched into an excoriating rant before storming out. I was flattered by this characterization of myself as political firebrand, but I'm not sure if it's true. Had my date been a plain old Tory, I'm pretty sure I would have taken him home. He then goes on to talk about things I'm not going to read on YouTube because this video is already going to be demonetized, but let's stop there. Anyway, he says, should you F a Tory? I've never encountered someone involved in conservative politics whom I found attractive. This is because there simply aren't any. Although the same could be said of for left-wing politics or centrist politics or any kind of politics at all, people associated with the Conservative Party are pallid, devoid of patter, terminally unfashionable. So it's unlikely to be much of a dilemma deciding you won't want to bang them. But aren't we lying to ourselves if we claim that everyone on the right is uneffable? Who among us hasn't strolled through the city and felt a twinge of desire and attendant self-loathing for some cold-eyed Patrick Bateman in a tight blue suit or a husky-voiced Chelsea siren named Bella? This guy's from the UK, obviously. Or actually, I think this might be India. Is this India? He's talking about Britain, but this article is India, I guess. Whatever. The reason this is funny is that he specifically talks about Count Dankula and Sargon of Akkad. What I see from this, as I, kind of already said, and we'll read this section about Dankula, is that there's clearly a reaction that's been happening for the past year or so to the fact that many feminists are struggling to find dates, relative to everyone else, it would seem. And I find it really interesting that many of these stories are written by like single women who are saying it's good to be single, don't get married, don't have kids. While biologists and evolutionary psychologists scream, this is what most people care about. How can your politics survive when it's pushing against the very nature of humanity? I guess the great experiment or argument is we can resist those urges. To an extent, we should. But for the most part, people just end up saying, you know what? Sorry, I'm going to go have fun. You're getting me down. Let's get to the fun part. He says, should you F a fascist, Nazi, or member of the alt-right? I think it's really funny that he then goes on to talk about Carl Benjamin and Count Dankula, who are not alt-right in any capacity. And the weirdest thing about Dankula, whenever they bring him up, it's like the dude doesn't even make political videos. He does. He made like a Brexit video, but the Mad Lads thing is just like historical humor. But let's read this. You're going to love it. He says, the alt-right of today bear little resemblance to the scowling, jackbooted alphas of gay porn. They're smarmy losers with nasal voices and milkshake-sodden suits. Many of them are vloggers too, and you wouldn't want to F a vlogger at the best of times. Consider the absolute state of Count Dankula, an appallingly dressed man who reminds me of every 18-year-old mosher in my hometown who, in a desperate bid to win their approval, would buy bottles of Glens for underage girls. Or rape joke lover Carl Benjamin, a man with the vibe of a regional games workshop manager. Okay, let me just stop you right there, buddy. They're both married. I'm pretty sure they're both married. Okay, I know Dankula's married. Pretty sure Carl is married. Carl's got kids. What are you talking about? What world do you live in? Women have clearly already chosen them. Dankula's marriage was decently public with tweets about it. I don't know, for the most part where they went, what they did, but people knew they got married. You want to tell someone don't do it? Don't pick the people that actually have successful relationships or children. It's the weirdest thing when they call Ben Shapiro an incel, and it's like, the dude's married with kids, man. What are you talking about? He's got children. Do you know what you have to do to make children? Do you think like he went in a lab and they like took a needle into his abdomen to extract his biological material? No, he's got a wife. Of all the people you would bring up, I never understood this. This is the problem with what they're saying. I get it. He's kind of joking. But I do find it interesting that these ideas keep popping up around the same time, like it's getting more and more, where they're like the dangerous rise of men who won't date woke women. But their argument is clearly just not working. If you wanted to go around telling women, don't date these people, don't date these people, it's like, but women are dating them. They got married. You look at someone like Emma Solkowitz, and the story is true that she found a guy on Tinder and she went after him. Your argument doesn't work. I think at the end of the day, people want to be loved. And when they see a strong, attractive guy, these feminists, these females are probably going to compromise. Here's what I think. Controversial opinion time. I think that most people are driven by a desire to be social and be socially acceptable. I think that's fair to say. We're social creatures. I think that many people are being polarized, but it's creating a big problem for the woke feminists who primarily target men for being privileged, and this puts men off. We then keep seeing stories about male feminists who are abusers. Why? Because they're predators who never cared about you in the first place. I think you then see strong, confident, moderate individuals who say, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm not going to date a woke woman. What's left? The feminist side is being drowned in a field of either male predators or pansy white knight men who just say, okay. And I don't think anyone finds it attractive. I don't find it attractive in a guy, and I'm not into guys. If I was hanging out with a dude and he was a pathetic loser who can never stand up for himself, I'd be like, listen, man, I'm not interested in hanging out with people who can't stand up for anybody. It's not about relationships because I'm not into that, right? The point is, I want my friends to actually be able to, to have some confidence. Who wants to be around those kind of people? Now, as for women who actually want to be in relationships, I can only imagine women don't want to be in relationships with guys who are like, whatever you say, dear. Yes, dear, whatever you say. I don't think. Some women, sure. I know some women who don't care about the guy for the most part. Like, they care about him, but they're like, I just want someone to be around for the kids. I'm going to go work. That's fine. But that's few and far between. Here's the problem I end up seeing then. When women go on Tinder and they swipe on somebody and the guy's going to be like, wokeness is dumb. Are they going to go and choose the abuser who's lying to get, in the community, which keeps happening? Are they going to choose the guy who's like hunched over and out of shape, being like, whatever you say, dear? Or are they going to go to the guy who's tall and chiseled and he's going to be like, yo, I don't want to hear it, man. That stuff's nuts. If that's what you're into, you can leave. I'll tell you something funny. I had someone on OkCupid hit me up. And it was very obvious from their profile that they were, intersectional woke, talking about their work with people, discussing lived experience and stuff like that. And I said straight up, I think you're an identitarian. I think you embrace a fringe ideology that I want to have nothing to do with. And boy, did they spin around in circles real quick. And I found it very strange. They were just like, you know what? I'm not really, I don't really think about that stuff. I think I'm kind of over it. Like, oh, here we go. Yeah, that's right. They messaged me. It was a woman. I give her, I think she was, interesting in a lot of ways, but I'm just like, dude, you are not going to convince me to go out with someone who's talking about this fringe ideology cultist stuff. It's never going to happen. And boy, oh boy, did she change her tune fast when I said, I'm not interested in that. And I still wasn't. Because even if you want to claim, no, trust me, I'm not really about that anymore. I'm going to be like, I don't believe you. I'm sorry, man. I just don't. I think you're weirdos. So, you know what? We went on a little bit long for this one. Not too long, but I'll just wrap it up. He goes on to say, should you F a centrist? And I think it's funny because his only real argument is that it must be terrible. Centrists, a politically active centrist, he says it's bound to be terrible. Sure, whatever. Don't care. In the end, there's just two funny things about this. I really love that he brought up Sargon and Dankula because I'm pretty sure they're both married. I'm fairly certain. I mean, Sargon's got kids and Dankula is married. It's like, why would you choose the people who have succeeded? Wouldn't you want to prove your point by choosing the people who aren't in relationships? Whatever, man. But I'm also willing to believe we're going to keep seeing articles about this. Like the silly warnings about like, don't date these people. Don't do it. You shouldn't do it. Well, who are they going to choose? Who are they going to go after? The weak white knights or the abusers? Or the regular people? Because I'm willing to bet like regular people who aren't political are going to be like, what are you talking about? Privilege what? I'm sorry, this is weird. This is not normal. You represent 1% of the population on Twitter, not the rest of us. I'll leave it there. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.